Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Bruce Keith, who is a founder of Bridgeweave, which is a AI platform that is using AI to bring institutional standard quantitative research and insights to wealth management and investment management. Hi, Bruce. Welcome to the show.
Priya, thank you. Thank you very much for having me, and delighted to talk to you and to your listeners.
Bruce, I would like to request you to introduce yourself to our audience and start with building some context around what is it that you are doing with your venture.
Sure. I guess I should start with I'm not your average Indian entrepreneur. And in fact, whilst I live in India, I am not Indian.
Mhm.
So, I grew up in an entrepreneur's family. My father was a carpenter. He built his own business.
Mhm.
This is my second business. My first one was based out of Bangalore,
Yeah.
in terms of all of our people, and that was a risk management business in the hedge fund space. And this is my second startup that I've
Wow.
started, which is very much in the fintech and wealth tech space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm based in Mumbai. My team are based in Bangalore again.
Mm-hmm.
And we're using AI to do some really special things
Mm.
for retail investors. And keen to kind of tell your listeners as much about that as possible.
Awesome. Uh, Before we start discussing about the product and platform, can you tell us, is there an underlying problem that you are solving? Like, who is our target personas here? What are their underlying pain points? And is it a big problem worth solving?
So, it's not an India problem; it's a global problem. But the numbers in India are kind of, and the speed of change in India makes it a very interesting one to kind of address in
Mm-hmm.
India. So if I take the global piece first, um, according to Credit Suisse, uh, there are 2.1 billion people on
Mm-hmm.
the planet who've got enough money to be advised, to have a wealth advisor or investment advisor. So 2.1 billion. There are 50 million people who are advised.
Okay.
That means there's 2.05 billion people who
Mm-hmm.
have enough money to have some advice, but don't get any advice. So the kind of the iceberg, the top of the iceberg's the advised, the bit under the water is the kind of unadvised.
Mm-hmm.
So we sort of start with that. And some of that is the top of the iceberg has more money. So it's more economical for advisors to kind of to work with that crowd. Um, Actually, it might just be that the people that are under the water, of which I am one,
Mm-hmm.
um, don't want to be advised, who want to have some say in their own decisions, who want some guidance, but actually want to kind of do things themselves. So there's a kind of whole mix that sort of is under the water.
Mm-hmm.
So if I think about my iceberg, there's a kind of massive amount of people who don't get advice. If I think about it in an Indian context, um, we've seen massive growth in Demat accounts.
Mm-hmm.
What are we seeing? 3 million new Demat accounts every month. It
Right.
just keeps going. But but if I look at the kind of latest SEBI numbers, or
Mm-hmm.
not SEBI necessarily, but NSE or BSE numbers, what I see is only only 20% of those Demat accounts are active. So
Okay.
kind of 80% of the people that are opening, that we've gone to the effort of opening an account, are not using them. So again, if I put my kind of global hat on, that number would be about 50% in kind of most European countries or in the US. So there's a kind of there's quite a big gap here. You'll always get some people who open an account who don't do it.
Mm.
But it's the kind of the number in India is really quite different. So you've got a lot of people who are not advised, you've got a lot of people who've gone and opened Demat accounts, but haven't done anything with it or aren't doing anything with it.
Right.
So, so part of this is kind of how do you provide a different service that helps those people kind of make the most of it?
Mm.
And when I was growing up, and I'm a lot older than you, but when I was growing up, we were taught to save. You
Mm.
couldn't access markets. We were taught to save. You would put your money in the bank. Now, the trouble with saving is inflation is always going to be higher than the saving rate.
Yes.
Um, no one told me that until I was in my 30s, right? So I was
Mm.
quite some way on. So actually, the fact that people know that now is a great start point. So can I get a chance to invest in mutual funds or invest in the market in some way, get some chance to kind of beat that savings rate? Again, when I was in my 20s, you couldn't open a brokerage account
Mm.
unless you had a certain amount of money. Or you were from the right family or whatever. You just couldn't do it. So if I think about kind of how do we give more and more people access to that kind of investing and income or side hustle or whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
Firstly, we got to kind of help them out in terms of the media bringing things to people's attention. So there's a kind of media piece, whether that's podcasts like yours, whether that's CNBC's putting something in people's living room, however you consume your media, there's a kind of media piece.
Mm.
Then in India we're lucky because we've had Zerodas, Grows, and Upstock. We've seen a massive influx in terms of the kind of neo brokers come together, and they've done a brilliant job. All of them have
Mm.
done a brilliant job in changing the price point in the market and
Mm.
making it really easy for people to open accounts up and invest. And actually, again, India is a stretch ahead of the rest of the world here. What we used to call the India stack, kind of
Mm.
back in the day, what you take for granted in terms of EKYC or UPI or ARDA or any of these things, that sort of public-private tech backbone has enabled so much of this. So it's so easy to do. So suddenly you've got media, you've got information. Suddenly your ability to transact, to open an account and transact is easy.
Mm.
So kind of two really big ticks.
Right.
But you know what to do? Do you know what to buy?
Great.
Now, and actually, we're all in WhatsApp groups.
Mm.
We've all got, friends, people we know through business, through work, family, whatever, who'll tell you something to buy. If you want a stock tip, just go into a WhatsApp group, any WhatsApp group, and ask it. You'll get something. Uh,
Mm.
it's, you know, or your local cafe or bar or whatever it is, someone will give you a stock tip.
Mm.
Nobody tells you when to sell.
Right.
Everyone tells you when to buy. Everyone tells you how much money they made from the last few tips they got. Nobody tells you when to sell. And
Mm.
and and the way you make money is well, not all the way, but one of the ways of making money is buying and selling.
Mm.
So one of the things we felt was no one really knows what to do. So they want some guidance. Everyone's got lots and lots of ideas of what to buy, but they kind of buy it and then they get stuck in it. And they might see it go up and then it comes down again and they're now holding something that was, you know, one of our friends said you should buy that. And they'll say to their friend, why did you tell me to buy that? I said, well, you should have got out last Tuesday.
Mm.
But kind of no one told them. So I think there's a kind of guidance piece in there to help people do that better. And then I kind of wrap all that around. You've also got to kind of let them know what's going on within their portfolio. So how
Mm-hmm.
do you kind of help them with that? So I think there's, as I say, media's done a great job kind of democratizing and making that information available. I think the brokerage industry's done a good job in making access available.
Mm-hmm.
The bit that's missing for me, the bit of the journey that doesn't work is how do you help people in what to buy and sell? And once you sell it, what do you buy next? Because there's no point selling and settle cash. You kind of need to kind of keep reinvesting.
Right.
And to kind of understand what's happening with your portfolio and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're trying to do is kind of address that, sort of part of the world. And there's some different people around who are all trying to do kind of different things, but the kind of the size and scale of that market is huge. And even if I just take that 20% of demats are active, and if you could get that up to the kind of global average of 50%,
Mm-hmm.
that's 2.5 times, right? Or one
Right.
and a half times more than it is today. So you're without anyone new opening an account, you're doubling the size of activity in Indian markets. That's huge, right? So the numbers themselves are huge. So it's all about how do we help people? How do we help
Got it.
people do that? And how do we use smart tech to do that?
Got it. Now, coming to smart tech, I think the platforms you mentioned, Zerodha, Grow, and Upstocks, I think they have, as you rightly said, they have done a great job at democratizing investing. They have built a very scalable platform that can be used by millions to invest in small quantities. And I think the problem that you just mentioned, about 2 million people need to they have some discretionary income to
Two,
but
2 billion.
yes.
2 billion. Yeah, it's huge. Obviously, India is a proportion of that, but it's a big number.
Yes. So my question here is, what is something that these platforms are not doing? I think they have also their inbuilt recommendation systems. They also have onboarded advisors who can advise you on your stock. They'll also give you reporting on how your portfolio is performing. What is the extra that you are doing? And I must admit they have not leveraged AI to that extent that AI is not as good as what it can be. So how are you leveraging AI to solve these problems?
So so brilliant question. So I don't think anyone's using AI as much as they could.
Yes.
Even my own organization, we're currently looking at how we can use kind of AI more. So as a kind of general AI statement, and I can talk about AI for hours and hours, but as a general AI statement, I think if every organization I meet has got a long way to go in terms of kind of how it uses AI to kind of improve its productivity and output and kind of get more from that and frankly make jobs more fulfilling for the people that are there. So I think AI's the kind of we're really at in a day. I know it's been the first language model was what 1986, but we're still really at kind of day zero, right?
Right.
We're right at the outset. So kind of what do we do that's different? Um, you know, if I think about investing, everyone tells you, investing is a kind of long-term thing. And by the way, I believe that as well. So investing is a kind of long-term thing. So investing's a test match.
Hmm.
So investing is a full-on, in fact, it's a test match series, but it's a test match, right? It goes on. And actually you'll have ups and you'll have downs and you'll have bumps on the road, but kind of enjoy the journey, trust the process, and make sure that your momentum's kind of going in the right direction. Um, Too many people treat it as a T20, right?
Hmm.
It's kind of mass bursts of activity, and then they're kind of exhausted and out.
Right.
And if I think about what we're doing with AI, our AI is taking the T20 piece, but it never gets tired. Can you imagine a T20 batter or bowler that just never stops? It's
Hmm.
always there, never stops. So AI, and it falls into what we call systematic investing. But AI is able to kind of keep that delivery going. So it's playing at a T20 pace over the entire test match. So
Mm,
really that's what you're doing. It's taking that ability to deal with so much data,
mm,
but delivering it again and again and again and again over that kind of longer period. So how does that manifest itself? It manifests itself in a bunch of different AI products, AI investment products. Um, and they can be as simple as kind of equity baskets. They can be for intraday trading. They can be for other types of kind of levered equity trading. But if I kind of roll back through my career, and I've spent a long time in private equity and also in the hedge fund industry,
mhm,
those, big institutions, the hedge fund world in particular, been using AI for, certainly since the turn of the century, right? I can think of AI funds using AI. Granted, it was symbolic logic and reasoning AI back in the early 2000s.
mm,
It's only now that it's in the reach of the common person. So suddenly, the price of compute's changed, access to data has changed. There's been some real kind of changes in that now mean the individual can access it. So before the scales were out of balance. The institution always did better. I
mm,
don't know that we'll ever get the scales completely in balance because the institution will always have more money than the individual. But if we can help balance that some more, we're doing a good job here. And it's about consistency of outcome. It's about kind of delivering every day. It's about lack of bias. It's about all of those things to create products that people can, I hope, trust in, and over the long term, get that T20 benefit over the whole test match.
mm. Got it. Uh, so you just mentioned that there are some big funds who have been using AI since early 2000s, and even I have heard that to be true. In fact, their AI models are so advanced that they are years ahead of the AIs that we see, like the LLMs and the chat GPTs of the world. So my question here is, how do you think that the AI that we are developing will have better predictions, better suggestions than those in the hands of large fund managers?
So, you know, do you need to be better, I guess is my start point. Or does the AI need to make you better than you would have been without it? And if I think about kind of Marvel comics,
Mhm,
if AI, rather than being kind of the amorphous system, can actually be your Rocket Man suit,
mhm,
you know, not Rocket Man, Iron Man, even wrong one, Iron Man suit. If it can be your Iron Man suit, Iron Man isn't faster than the Flash, and he can't, he's not better than, I'm trying to think of another Marvel character, but can I run through your characters? He isn't better than, but he's a human using a machine.
mm,
If I can do that and make you better, you don't have to be the best, but you have to be better. So I think that's one. I think it's about being able to consistently deliver. You
correct.
know, if if I think about honestly anything in life, if you order from Swiggy and it's always there, you'll keep using Swiggy.
Mm,
And the day that it stops being able to kind of deliver for you or find your house or get it on time, you'll try someone else. So there's a thing about that kind of consistency of delivery. And that's tough in investment markets because markets, as we know, markets go up and markets go down.
mm,
So part of this is about kind of sticking with it and staying with it, but kind of over the kind of medium and longer term, it should keep delivering for you, and I would hope give you much better results as a consequence.
Right. And another thing I always was curious to understand. So when you solve at scale, first of all, in the investing world, if you make one investment on a undervalued stock, let's say, it only works when you are right and rest of the people are wrong. But let's say the AI is advising everybody to buy the same stock. It doesn't work at scale. You advise 2 billion people to buy Microsoft stock.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, how does it work? Can you
So
explain?
yeah, it's a brilliant question. So there's kind of a couple of bits to it. So there's an AI specific bit, then there's a specifically around what we do. So just let me touch on the AI one first. So if I compare humans to AI, humans are much better than AI at extracting information from very small bits of data. So we can look at something and we can instantly sort of come to a conclusion on it through a whole bunch of different things. AI is brilliant when it's got lots and lots of data. So
Mm,
your kind of undervalued stock example, AI might be able to kind of detect that, but actually some of the things that you attribute to it are just based on your kind of life and kind of what you've seen and kind of how you feel. So there are certain there's a place for a kind of human stock picker alongside a machine.
mhm,
What a machine does is it's relentless.
mm,
Right? It just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. So the benefit really kind of comes through really kind of comes through there. But to your point about how do you make sure that you don't have everyone trading the same stock? Because the first guy in is going to do well, but the last person in is going to get a kind of bum deal.
yep.
And we focus on that quite a lot. So what we do, we've got a whole bunch of different AI models running. So it's all coming from the same platform.
Mhm,
Um, so that the different investment baskets that we have will rebalance on different days.
mm,
Simply, if you happen to be in an investment basket that's on a Monday rebalance, you'll get the selections and picks on that Monday, and that will rebalance on a 2 weekly or a 4 weekly or a 8 weekly cycle.
mhm,
Someone else who's on a Wednesday model will get a different set of picks. And one of the beautiful things, and it's the my kind of example about those funds in the 2000s, that they were using symbolic AI. Symbolic AI was all about logic and reasoning.
mhm.
Well, actually, what they were really doing, they were the kind of early version of high frequency trading.
Okay.
So they just look for that tiny little movement, that little bit of arbitrage, and they take it.
Mm,
So the early 2000s were doing that. If I look at AI today, if that was logic and reasoning, the AI today is more kind of biological. If I think of the neural network. So what you're actually doing is you're giving the AI lots of data to train it, as
mm,
ChatGPT is a good example, or GPT is a good example. And you're letting it make the connections, and those connections change, and you're telling it what output parameters you're looking for, and it's kind of working towards that. And it's quite a different way of kind of linking things together. Um, will the individual ever have the same power as the institution? I don't think they will. Can we balance the scales? Yeah, we can certainly redress them.
got it. Uh, the another aspect I wanted to cover was the angle of personalization. So every investor is different. They have different risk appetite. Somebody wants to invest in
Yeah.
bonds, somebody wants to invest in golds, and someone is interested in stocks which are higher risk. So their risk appetite is different. They also want to have different liquidity. Somebody wants to invest in long-term assets. Someone is, trying to encash after 2 years. So different priorities are there, and based on that, the advisory that you provide would also be different for every individual. So how have you, added those things to your platform?
So we don't do advice. We don't do what we provide is guidance. So it assumes and specifically says you need to be clear what you want. So
Mm,
if you want a high risk portfolio, here's the high risk portfolio. So it's very much kind of dependent on you having some control and wanting some of that. To the extent you still need advice, I, I'm quite strongly of the view you should be getting advice from a human.
mm,
I think there's too many nuances in sometimes it's not what we say, it's what we don't say. And
mm,
and having that conversation with someone, that's more likely to kind of come out. So I think if you want advice, I still think a human delivers that. I think if you want some guidance, if you know what you want from your investments and you've got an idea where your risk profile is and your timeline is, then
mm,
then I think we've got the kind of products for you. I don't think I think personalization is a tough one. And it's again, if we've all seen it, we've all seen it with GPT, but you get AI hallucinations.
mm,
Uh, so the last thing you want is someone getting advice based on kind of wrong data or wrong assumptions in terms of what a machine's done. So I think rightly regulators, kind of SEBI in India, but regulators globally wouldn't allow AI to kind of step over that. They would want some human checks and balances in there. And I think that's right. I don't think our large language models have developed to the stage yet to be able to do that.
mhm,
But the flip side, so if I think about what we use some large language models to be able to explain what happened to your portfolio and why your portfolio is different from what the AI was saying or the AI thought the results should be. And kind of what went on. So it's able to kind of give you, but all of those things are factual. So it's able to do all the analysis for you and give you the factual stuff. But if you say to it, which portfolio should I invest in? It'll stop at that point. It should never overstep the mark.
mm,
And I think that's really important. So when I think about AI interacting with individuals, you've got to be really clear what the boundaries are.
mm,
And if you can set the boundaries, so there's two things. You're going to set the boundaries right. So we're not going to allow it to do these things. So if
mm,
someone asks for that, it's just shouldn't go there. So that's number one. Number two, as far as possible, you've got to have real oversight on the data that goes in.
mm,
So if you've particularly as it relates to investments, it's mainly financial data that you're sort of starting with. So if you can actually be clear about the quality of the news feeds that you've got and the financial data that's going in, you're much less likely to end up with a hallucination at the other end.
mm. Got it. How would you going about the data security? I think data security has been the buzzword recently because the AI systems are interconnected. They operate globally, so that also means that data flows outside the boundaries of a nation. So that compromises data sovereignty. So how are you going about that?
So I think you've got to be really clear what's personal data. So from a kind of India perspective, all of our processing is done in India. All of our data lake, data warehouse, data tables, all of our data is in India.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of easy, and so there's that piece. But then as you kind of tap into, other platforms, whether that's a Gemini or a GPT, then you have to use some data to go into that to get kind of certain results out. So our core platform we built ourselves, but on some of the large language stuff, the large language models, we're actually tapping in elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
In those examples, you've got to be really clear what data you're allowed to go. Anything that is personal or personal identifiable data, you can't send. You just absolutely can't send it.
Mm.
And that's in how you set up your process and structure in the first place, and segregate it and encrypt it both at rest and in transit, so that in the unlikely event something did go, at least it's going encrypted. It's not going, as kind of raw data. So yeah, I think I think the more that we all use these large language models in our day-to-day work, the more of this data is potentially going to kind of seep out. So as
Mm.
kind of organizations, whether you're an AI organization or not, you're going to have to be really, really careful with that.
Right. And speaking of India, you also spoke about the advancements that India has done in the space of payments, in the space of finance. You spoke about the India Stack, UPI, eKYC, and so on. And these models are now getting replicated in other nations as well. My question is, can India take a global stage with AI use cases, AI use case led business models, which can be replicated globally? Because the way I see it, a lot of innovations, all the good AI is being developed in either US or China. So, what is your thought about this?
So that there's definitely a race just now. You just have to look at where all the kind of NVIDIA chips are being
Mm.
bought. Um, and you wouldn't bet against the US at this point, given the amount that's kind of started from there. Um, China's made a kind of a big play
Yes.
in AI, for kind of obvious reasons. I don't see why India can't play in that as well. Um, and if but I think if I think about India just now, India's a massive growth story, right?
Mm.
India's a private equity investment, right? In 5 years, the value of India will double, right?
Right.
That doubling of value is like a kind of private equity investment. So there's so much going on here. There's a kind of slight risk that we all kind of look internally and not think too much about the outside world. So I think where India has, we talked about it, whether it's in UPI or any part of the kind of India stack, India kind of led the way there. If I
Mm.
think about so many of the kind of really groundbreaking inventions globally came about through some element of kind of public input, you
Mm.
know, by public, I mean public sector. And and I think there's a role to play for government in helping to kind of shape that, um, and create the right kind of conditions. I think India is not short of entrepreneurs, and it's
Mm.
not short of tech talent. So I
Right.
think the talent's here to do it. It's about trying to create the infrastructure and just to kind of keep that going. Right now, roughly 10% of my code is written by AI.
Mm.
By the end of next year, I'm targeting to get that to closer to 70 or 75%.
Wow.
Okay. So if I can do that, that means the number I don't have to right now, I'm kind of planning, without AI, I would probably have to increase my headcount and my tech dev headcount kind of between 3 and 4 times. I won't have to do that. I can actually keep the good people I've got. I can use AI to do a lot of the standard stuff. And then actually their job becomes kind of much more interesting. So I think the ability to use AI and be creative about it, we're in such a growing market, the opportunities are here.
Mm.
But it's about grabbing them. And I think the entrepreneurial culture's right. It was great to see, a kind of an ONDC type approach to AI as well. Kind of what does that look like? I don't know.
Mm.
But I think there's, a supportive government goes a long way to help it.
My final question before we close. So you have been a seasoned entrepreneur. You have exited businesses, and you are on your second venture. Uh, what do you understand about entrepreneurship? Also, you have experience of working in two different markets as well.
Yeah.
So, what is the common thing about entrepreneurship that you have understood?
So, so being an entrepreneur is it's an emotional roller coaster,
Mm.
and particularly in the kind of early days, it's an emotional roller coaster. So starting up a business, it's easy to have an idea, it's easy to have a side hustle, but actually kind of throwing yourself in is quite a leap. And then once you do that, the kind of all the mistakes you make,
Mhm.
and as you say, I've done it more than once, so it's just different mistakes the second time round, but you still kind of keep making mistakes. So it's how quickly do you learn from them?
Right.
And there's a piece about resilience because there'll be tough times, and kind of how resilient are you to kind of see through that. But the overarching thing is you've got to have some kind of some kind of vision. I hate to say mission statement because I just think that's a kind of horribly corporate word, but you've got to believe in something,
Yeah.
right? And for me, if we can actually make people's lives better by helping produce more predictable investment outcomes that improve the returns they would get, we've done a really good thing.
Mhm.
Now, that gives me a lot of scope, and we're going to use tech to do it, and we use AI to. That gives me a lot of scope to kind of sort of change other things, but I'm going to stay common to that goal. I want that democratization of wealth management is absolutely what we're about. So having that and kind of that North Star, I think is kind of really important. I think the other thing is finding other entrepreneurs you can talk to, because you can get so much energy from it.
Mm.
Time is finite.
Right.
And we cannot get any more time on this world.
Yes.
So what time I spend, I want to spend it, and I want to spend it in something that increases my energy. And my wife, my wife's always sort of said to me, I can tell when you're at the exciting stage of a business because you spring out of bed every morning. And it's
Mm.
that feeling of really wanting to get on it rather than the classic corporate image of someone who's going to get getting out. It's another day in the job. How you feel about it's different. It's your
Yeah.
thing, it's your baby. It's what you want to kind of go and do. And how you feel about everyone else who works there is different as well. So it's quite emotional, in a kind of really positive way. I think if I think about India specifically, when I lived in the UK, and I would come to India once every other month or once a quarter. I'd be here regularly, and I've been doing that since 2005. Um, I would always go back, typically to the UK, but I would always go back, and I could just my energy levels were so much higher
Mm.
because just there was a belief in this country that you can actually do it. There's the opportunities there, and you can grow and you can do it. So I think having that as a kind of starting piece is brilliant. So that kind of energy to start, I think, you know, it creates lots and lots of those kind of opportunities for people to kind of go and try things and have a go. If it doesn't work, as long as you believe in something, you'll find something else to kind of do.
Yes, absolutely. I think I can relate to most of the things you just said. It is true that entrepreneurs do have a vision, the larger picture that others cannot see, and because the entrepreneurs see that, they have this urge, massive urge to action on it.
Yeah.
And I think that is what I could summarize from what you just said. Thanks for joining us, Bruce. It was a very interesting session. We got to learn a lot of things from you, and we also understood a perspective, a outside in a perspective of how India's story is playing out and what are the things India is doing well, and all. I think on this note, we will close the session. It was a pleasure to speak with you and having you on our platform, and our best wishes for the platform that you are building.
Thank you, Priya. Really, really enjoyed talking to you and to your audience as well, and wish you and all prospective entrepreneurs all the very best of luck.
Thank you, Bruce.